Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Saturday night. I am your friendly neighborhood Prax. Welcome to the channel. I use she, her pronouns, and today we are talking about books. Thank you for that wonderful resub, Pope. I appreciate you very much. We are talking about books, the books that I read over the last week, as we do every week. And then we sit here, we chat. When we get to spoiler points, I will put a spoiler tag above me for as long as the spoilers discussion goes on, because sometimes I just want to talk about books and I don't want to pay attention to whether or not they're spoiler free or not. But I do try and give a spoiler free review of every book before I put the spoiler tag up, and I try not to give plot relevant spoilers beyond, like, say the first couple chapters, really, at all. Sometimes I might give you a line or two of dialogue or phrasing to give a understanding of who the author is, what their writing style is, how they approach different points. And but I try not to make sure that I'm trying to make sure that they're not plot relevant. So Time asks, question: how many books, novels feature libraries as great as part of the story? So far, I've only gotten The Great Gatsby and The Name of the Rose. There are more than that, and I'm blanking on. There are a couple mysteries I know that definitely focus on the library as being a character, but also a plot feature. And oh, you had to ask me now, and this has gone right out of my head. Oh, there's an entire series that I haven't read yet, but it is specifically about what is it? It's specifically about libraries and the hauntedness of the libraries. Oh God, what is that series? It's gonna bother me. I have to look it up. Certain books. Search. Oh, what is it? It's called, why is this gonna bother me? Like, there's a whole lot of them. A lot of fantasy novels. Jen McKinley is a mystery author who writes a lot of books set in libraries. There's The Library of the Dead. That's what I was thinking about. The Library of the Dead by T.L. Huchu. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce this. I will drop the link in chat and make sure I have it. I have not read this book yet. There you go. But it's looked really good, and I've been kind of wanting to read it a little bit more. There's a whole bunch of others that I can think of, you know, there's just a bunch. A lot of fantasy novels and a lot of mystery novels use the library as a feature, as both a plot device and possibly like a character within the book. Agatha Christie has like 2. But yeah, libraries are important. Fantasy, mystery, and horror. Yeah, lots of fantasy, mystery, and horror use libraries in the setting. Oh, Babel! Babel is a new book, or not new, I mean, I guess it's like a year old now, by R.F. Kang, about actually, specifically about translation and transliteration and libraries as both magic and tools of empire building. You're right, Pope. Horror does love a library. But today we're going to talk about some of the books that I have over here next to me, because I have a whole bunch of them right over here next to me. And speaking of horror, I think that's a good place to start. Because it was a short novella that I read this week. Um, by T. Kingfisher, What Moves the Dead. It's a short little novella. I mean, what do we call the difference between a novel and a novella? I mean, this is 158 pages, right? And it technically is shelved in the horror section. And if you are an individual so inclined to do things, as in go to the Starbucks in Barnes & Noble, which, by the way, is not actually run by Starbucks, and therefore technically isn't violating the boycott, but I understand if some people wish to not do so, fine. But if you want to, it's currently $5 if you buy something, even like the cheapest coffee. Whatever. It's their book of the month at Barnes & Noble. Okay, so Pope says novellas are anything under 280. I would give 200 as my cutoff, right? Like 200 is my cutoff, just because I also read some YA fiction, and YA tends to be a little bit tighter than adult fiction, and usually can be, have a complete novel at 200. But I can see that definitively. But this is definitely a novella. You are following a very interesting character, and it's as if I would say that this novella is Hercule Poirot meets Fall of the House of Usher, the Hammer movie, more than the actual book, although there are some book portions in it, but very much that feel of Poirot or Agatha Christie house mystery in England in the late 19th, early 20th century. The main character, I believe, is also a survivor. It's very interesting. He kind of becomes both a police officer and not. I believe he was a member. Like, I'm trying to remember. Yes, he I don't think it's ever actually stated, but I get the impression that he was kind of supposed to be tied to like a World War I kind of officer. This is very good. I buried the lead there. This is very good. I'm not going to give you any like spoilers for this plot. It's so short but so tight as a plot that I really think anything I would say about it would undermine the story and this is not modern horror. This is Hitchcock style horror, or that kind of level of thriller, dark, gothic look. And I think you should just go into it blind and appreciate it. Feel free to lurk away, Faye. I welcome you. Any lurkers are always welcome. Yeah, so like this is more like a murder mystery, horror, thriller, creepy, gothic kind of feeling book. Like this is horror. This is horror of Hammer Studios doing Edgar Allan Poe, or combined with the mystery aspect that you get from Alfred Hitchcock. Bone Collector style pacing. It's a novella, so it's a little faster than the Bone Collector, right? Like it's tighter than the Bone Collector. I would say that this is got the pacing of, if you've actually read any Edgar Allan Poe short stories, like, it's got the pacing of Cask of Amontillado or The Telltale Heart, but it's a little bit longer than that. It's more of a complete mystery and depth. There's more that you discover. Also, not for nothing, each chapter, just so you understand how this book is both visually and why I think this is a book you should actually read in a physical copy, even if you get it from the library. Hi, we support libraries here in this channel. We support libraries. Even if you get this book from the library, I think you should read this as a physical copy. Now, the reason I say that, I am not judging anyone who reads e-copies or listens to audiobooks or does anything like that. I'm not saying that those are not books. That's not the point. My point here is there is something very visceral about the fact that every single chapter begins on the right-hand facing page, and the left-hand facing page of the chapter before is black. The intentionality of the layout of this book adds to the feel of that slowly encroaching horror that comes with this book. And because of the way e-readers function and the way, like, I haven't heard if there's an ebook version, I don't know. I just don't, you know, in audiobooks, I don't think you get that same kind of layout affecting the way you read, right? Like, it's like old school Twilight Zone or Tales from the Outer Limit, where there's that fade to black, you know, but not fade to black, this very abrupt black cutout that ends that chapter, and then you start another chapter, and you're like, okay, so there's this psychological and visual reaction that occurs because of the layout of the physical copy. I think it would be, a lot of people will like this. I freely admit that I made the mistake. I'm a very visceral imaging person. I don't think in pictures, but I think in words, and they are very, very visual. It has that, Pope says it has that visual language that horror comics of the early 90s often use. Yes. I agree with you on that one, Pope. It uses the layout of the book to its advantage. It uses its structure and design and understanding, and the thought that went into laying this out really builds the tension. And this is really a very interesting, and it's even more interesting because it's first-person narrative, right? Like, a lot of first-person narratives that you get that are fantasy or mystery or whatever, they can be hit or miss. This is very much a mystery / horror where the first-person narrative helps build that tension, helps, you know, the main character is the person, the point of view character is who we are following. We're experiencing their experiences of this situation and of this mystery, and in and of themselves, like everybody else, slowly and methodically, and that first-person narrative really adds to that. I would also say that I liked the main character. I think he is an interesting character. He has interesting asides, and that's one of those things that you get in this kind of first-person narrative. It is very much like a Shakespeare, not a Shakespeare, like a Sherlock Holmes, where Watson is not quite talking to the audience, but talking to himself, with the assumption that his readers will eventually read it, kind of thing. And it works really well, I think, in this kind of novella thing. So yes, What Moves the Dead is by T. Kingfisher. I firmly recommend it. Definitely enjoyable, quick read. Don't do what I did and read it right before you go to bed, if you are a person who has very vivid imagination. And there we go. That's my answer. To answer Faison's question, no, I didn't read the new novella yet from Pen and Des. I didn't read the new Lois McMaster's Fueled yet. So we'll have to add that to my list of things to read. But as for What Moves the Dead, yes, I think people will enjoy it. If you like gothic horror, if you like mystery, if you like very interesting questions about interesting things, also fungi. So don't read this after you've watched The Last of Us, or do if that is your choice. Not gonna judge anybody for what they choose to do, but my point of view is read this. It's enjoyable. The sequel, which is called What Feasts at Night, is going to be coming out this year, in 2024. In, I believe, the next couple months, is from what I understand, but I've been wrong before. So this is actually a good time to get into this. If you haven't read any T. Kingfisher, this is a really good... is a good introduction to the style of writing that she writes, but not necessarily her overarching oeuvre, I guess. She writes a lot of very interesting plays on fairy tales, on fantasy, on everything, and most of them are short. Most of them are little novellas like this, and I think you should enjoy them. But yes, go read. Okay, so What Moves the Dead? Let's go to a book that I was very excited to read and enjoyed every little bit of. This is The Red Palace by June Hur. I think is how it's pronounced. I need to go listen to that 50 billion times. It's a Joseon era, which is a mystery, dealing with a killer in Korea, and court politics, and if you've ever watched any really good K-dramas, this is a K-drama in book form, as it's been said by many people. It is a short, quick read. For me, it was a couple hours, but it was really, really well done. Technically a YA novel. Also, it's a mystery where the main characters are very, very, very interesting. The female main character is the illegitimate daughter of a nobleman who works for he's a judge, and she is, because there are very few options left for her in her rank, she is a royal palace nurse. During this period in Korea, the Confucian laws were very heavy, and as part of that, men did not touch women that they were not related to, either through blood or through marriage. And because of that, there were a number of women who were dying in childbirth or various other reasons in the palace. And so what they did is they created an entire nursing staff that was originally designed to treat the women of the palace, which is very interesting and very kind of positive. So Junher is a Korean. She's from Korea. She grew up in Korea and Canada, went to high school and college in Korea, came back and currently lives in Canada, writes a number of really interesting mystery novels set in historical time periods throughout Korean history. And if you follow her on Instagram or Twitter or any of the social medias, she's a really engaged author. One of the things I really, really love about her is she has for every book that she writes, she has a playlist that she puts up on Spotify and a mood board that she puts up on Pinterest that you can go onto her website and find and use. So I listened to the playlist while reading this book. It is evocative. It is brilliant. The writing style is very, very positive prose. Again, it's technically geared as a YA novel, so the writing style is you know, it's a YA kind of writing style. It's also a first-person narrative perspective, and it is very, very well done. It is also really good because one of the things I love about this novel in particular, and all of Junher's novels that I've read so far, is she sprinkles in terminology that the characters would know and use in Korean for the time period, based on titles that would have to be addressed to persons in various positions of power or authority, as well as job titles, position, and court dynamics. But she also, so you can figure a lot of it out through context clues within the text, but she also, very kindly, at the end of the book, gives you a lot of these terms. Well, it's not listed as like an appendix, but they're kind of like listed within the book as kind of definitions are given, and a lot of it is context clues, but some of it is actually just defined. So it helps you understand a lot of these terms and learn a lot of these terms. She also does brilliant historical research for each of these novels. This one in particular, I think, was done very, very well. It was written in such a way that you could see where the author was going. And I knew going in, because I had been following this book, and and I had been looking forward to getting this book. I knew going in about what particular historical event this author was writing about, so I was like, oh, okay, I know what this event is about. Now I can do some research. But she also adds in the author's note in the back a bunch of historical records and research if you want to go and look it up, if you want to do more research yourself and find out more information, which I think is a brilliant. It's something that I think should be required for every author that's writing historical fiction. And that's what this is, right? This is historical fiction. It's taking real events and people and writing a fictional story about those events and people with fictionalized characters as the main characters. And because of that, she cites all of her sources, right? Like, she puts in here all of the stuff that she was researching, where she got her information, what primary sources she was using, and gives you a way to go and look and find out more information for yourself. Brilliant, first rate, totally win. Yes, and yes, I did pick up the hardcover copy. That is because the paperback is not out yet, and the pre-order for the paperback is the exact same price as the hardcover. So, if you can get this at your public library, please read it. I think it's brilliant, and she's a brilliant voice as an author. We need more of these kind of stories being told, kind of showcasing different portions of history and different writing styles. It's a really good, fast YA read. the romance that is in this book is a Korean drama romance, so I'm just going to leave that right there. Brilliantly written. And that is the end of my spoiler-free review. So in the next 5 seconds, I'm going to put the spoiler tag up, and then we're going to talk spoilers, because I have points about this book, y'all. There are things I get to say about this book. But the spoiler tag is going up in 3, 2, 1. All right, spoilers are up. As long as this thing is above my head, spoiler time. When I take it down, no more spoilers. So, this book is set in 1758 in Korea, and it deals with a particular character called, well, the main character is a nurse for the royal palace, right? The Red Palace. And the male main character is a young police inspector. I love them. I have so many feels about them as main characters, and they're just brilliant. I'm not going to spoil the end of their story because that's just the thing. But this particular case is dealing with a important historical event wherein a figure known as Crown Prince Sado, who that's his name that he's known by throughout history, who is a very interesting historical figure, right? Like, there are historical figures like Elizabeth Bathory, who was probably done a little bit wrong by history and was probably not anywhere near as murderous as she was made out to be, but a lot of people took advantage of her. Or, you know, Vlad Tepes, who did murder a shit ton of people. Crown Prince Sado is a historical figure who murdered a shit ton of people. And we know this. We know this literally from the court. There in Korean history, there was a position within the Korean court where it was literally the royal chronicler, and they wrote everything down. Like, they were allowed to write everything, no matter how embarrassing it was for the royal in question. I believe there, like, Junher mentions a particular instance where a prince was trying to mount a horse, fell on his ass, and looked around and said, "Nobody tell the chronicler." And you want to know how we know about that? Because the chronicler saw it and wrote that shit down. Right? Like, that's the level of detail that the royal chronicles of Korean courts have, I should say. And so we know a lot about Crown Prince Sado from these accounts, but we also, as she points out and cites, Junher actually mentions particularly the Crown Prince's wife's lady, what's her name? I want to make sure I say this correctly. Lady Hyung-young, who wrote memoirs, which survived. His wife wrote memoirs, which survived. So we know that he murdered a shit ton of people. At least 100 that we can account for, historically, and therefore probably more. So we know that he's killed a lot of people. We know this historically. And this is a fact that you know kind of going in, because the back of the book reads, "He turned the crinkled paper over to me, the sheet spattered and smeared with blood. Chills pricked down my spine as I heard again the whistling arrow and thudding of death. I closed my eyes a moment until my mind cleared, and when I opened them, I saw before me the Hanja characters, ink dripping in vertical lines. The Crown Prince killed me. The Crown Prince killed the 4 women. The Crown Prince will kill again." That's the setup on the back of this book. And I'm not going to answer the question of whether or not that's the true statement. But we know that he did. And I have to give Junher so much credit for the research that she's done, the analysis that she's put in there, the way in which she ties both history and fiction together in a way that tells a story about this particular time period and character and historical figures, but also does not, you get the fiction, but you also do not do a disservice to the actual history. And her acknowledgments at the end are really good at this and really, really brilliant. And one of the things she mentioned specifically is there's been a lot of modern analysis of Crown Prince Sado, you know, like historians' analysis current day, that that most scholars kind of agree with a consensus that he probably did have some sort of mental illness. And she explains why she did not address that. And I felt that her explanation is brilliant and is one of the most important things. Where is it? Oh, that's too late. Okay, here we go. A review of the literature suggests that the Crown Prince did indeed suffer from psychiatric symptoms. However, this is a delicate and complex topic, and so I chose not to focus on this aspect of the Crown Prince's life. I knew I wouldn't be able to do justice to a portrayal of this particular experience without falling into the danger of suggesting that those who have mental health problems are dangerous. This is something I absolutely do not believe or condone. So it really comes down to... There's also a more recent theory. It presents him not as a psychotic killer, but as a tragic prodigy whose revolutionary ideas clashed with the old doctrine faction and the leading political party at the time. He therefore fell victim to the political conspiracy at the royal court. However, one thing to note is that even if the Crown Prince Jung Hyun was really a victim of political strife, this doesn't negate his homicidal acts. None of the scholars dispute the fact that the Crown Prince was a murderer, because these facts appear in too many court documents, such as the Annals of Joseon Dynasty and the Diaries of the Royal Secretariat, along with his wife's memoirs of Lady Hyung. The violent acts he committed were ruthless, and he allegedly killed 100 people in his lifetime. So this is a brilliant case where the author acknowledges that there's this discourse going on within the academic field about this historical figure and what this, current analysis shows and possibility of mental illness, but recognizing that that does not excuse the fact that the man killed at least 100 people that we know about. And probably more, right? Like, you don't just kill 100 people and say it's a day. So the detail that she went into with the understanding that because you're following the figures of this royal nurse and this young inspector, police inspector, who, again, like all kind of Confucian era or Confucian cultures at the time, were based, positions of power and rank in the court were based on state exams. So you could have this brilliant young mind become an inspector at like 18 because he just did that well on the state administered exams. And that's what happens to the Seo in this book. And he is, sweet summer child, we miss you. We feel for you. But because of that, because you're following these two characters who are looking at legitimately horrible deaths committed, and, you know, these, like, this starts with a massacre at a nursing school. Literally, like, the place where the nurses are taught and also kind of the local city nurses are based out of, it's a straight up massacre. Like, 5 people are dead. And in bloody, bloody ways. So, you're starting at this point of these 2 individuals investigating these crimes. You can't then turn around and say, because you had to acknowledge that there is some kind of complexity tied to Crown Prince Sado, you can't justify his, if he, you know, I'm not going to give the spoiler of whether or not he killed them, but he did murder a whole bunch of other people. And one of them is an event we know about where he literally threw a fit, got so pissed off, and just swung a sword and decapitated somebody while he was sitting in his horse's saddle. Like, he just was in a pissed off mood, turned around, swung his sword, and killed somebody. And there were like 6 witnesses to this. So Junher's very frank point about not discussing the possibility of mental illness of this character made sense to try and avoid the point of being like, people with mental illness are dangerous. And she does a brilliant job of that. And it works really well because the 2 characters that she's using as point of view characters are characters for whom it doesn't matter if Prince Sado has a mental illness or not, right? Like, it does not matter to them, to the nurse and the police inspector, if the Crown Prince has a mental illness. What they're worried about is whether or not the Crown Prince committed this act, or if somebody else committed these murders. And more importantly, for the nurse, about proving that the head nurse at this nursing school who taught this nurse did not commit these murders. And that's what this is about. So you didn't need to focus so much on Crown Prince Sado's personal turmoil, because it's not about that, right? It's like, you're not excusing his actions, you're just looking at the did he or did he not, and there's a possibility that he didn't. There's a possibility that it's all somebody trying to blame the Crown Prince as a political issue, and that's a really interesting point in this book. So I think it does a brilliant job of writing. The story is written so brilliantly and concretely, and I made the mistake of reading What Moves the Dead and this the same night, right before bed. That was not good for me. Other people may not have that problem, but it was not a good thing for me. I also say that this is a really good book because it does a very good job of highlighting one of the really, really positive things that Junher does in this series is highlighting the knowledge and technology that was available at the time, as well as showcasing the ability of both traditional East Asian medicinal practices and as well as practices of the forensic analysis that they did, and this is 1758, and there's a level of forensic analysis going on in this book that was historically accurate for 1758 that would not be out of place in a modern historical crime drama. You probably get as little sleep as I did on Thursday. Look. You're not wrong, Time. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But yes, so 10 out of 10, would read, would recommend. Taking the spoiler tag down, 10 out of 10, would read, would recommend. Enjoy it. If you're a person who gets overly descriptive in your mind, probably don't read it just before you go to bed, because that can be a thing. Also, can we take a minute to appreciate my boy? Look at my boy. Look at the sweet summer child. He looks so confused and put upon, and his life does not get any better. His life does not get any better. And I just want to say that the brilliant ending of this book has the perfect, like, if you like Korean drama, romance, historical drama, romance, this has got the right sprinkling of that kind of romance all throughout this book, and the right ending that you're just like, yes. So that is the 2 horror books I've read so far this week. I'm not going to throw that one. Not going to throw that one. But, how are we doing? How are we feeling? Okay. Oh, so moving along on our trend of interesting authors that I found through Instagram. Well, that's not true. I knew Catherine before Instagram. I just follow Catherine on Instagram. So, moving into the true fantasy genre, we have The Blessing of Equinox by Catherine Reynolds. This is book 1 of the Fae series that she wrote. There are, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books and a prequel, the Fae Realm series. This is, I believe she said right now, this week, and I think next week, they are currently free as ebooks if you have Kindle Unlimited. I went ahead and bought the physical copy because I just like to support people, and the physical copy wasn't that expensive. Also, can we appreciate this art? Can we appreciate this art? And this beautiful, beautiful layout. So this is a fantasy series, book 1 in a fantasy series, and I read book 1 in 2.5 hours. I literally could not put this down. I was very restrained and did not start book 2 yet. It is sitting right over here. I will get to book 2 this week. But it's sitting right here. I can't wait to read it. But this is a brilliant beginning to this series. It is a fantasy novel that reads more as a fairy tale or myth than as a straight fantasy novel. I see a lot of influence in this of both Celtic and Norse mythology, but also in, not just in context and subject matter, but also in the way in which the story is told. I see a lot of mood similarities to Sir Gawain Green Knight, if you've read any of that. A lot of that kind of early style magical realism kind of thing in a historical world. It is a brilliant first novel that introduces a really kind of concrete first novel quest that needs to be completed, that is completed at the end of the first novel, but the results and the aftermath of that quest are going to lead into the future books. I can see already certain things that are going to come into being a problem based on the fallout, really, of book one. I love it. I love it. I took the time to write a brilliant, really long review on Storygraph. I think that it is 10 out of 10. Will read. The romance in The Red Palace is a YA kind of Korean drama yearning. Will they, won't they? Their society plays through them. It's complicated. I love it. Moving on. The Blessing of the Equinox, there is a romance in this story, and this... Oh, that's the other thing this reminded me. So this also reminded me of the Song of Roland, right? Like, those large chivalric poems that are these great romances and these stories that work really, really well. But it's kind of got that myth feel, it's got that fairy tale feel, it's got that everything is just a little to the left what you expect. This is also a short book. It was a quick read. It is also give Catherine so much credit that she includes both a pronunciation guide and a creature guide at the back of the book to give you more details about the mythology and the creatures that she's talking about. And I loved every minute of it. I am looking forward to reading book 2. And that is as far as I can go on without the spoiler free. I will say that the main character, Marsilia... Okay, so this is from the back of the book. Death has come to the Fey woods. Death has come to the Fey woods. The White Witch Marsilia leads a happy life in the Fey woods of the mortal realm. When a dark entity threatens her home, she seeks aid from an elder witch. Thiel is a dwarven warrior outcast from his society. Honorable and steadfast, he mistrusts those who wield magic. In debt to the elder witch, he finds himself an unwilling companion on Marsilia's quest to save her home. Can the White Witch and the dwarf learn to cooperate before the darkness consumes all that they love? Yes, 10 out of 10. Read. Moody, atmospheric, fairy tale, myth, sagas, all of that right here. Hold on, just have to answer this quick message. Okay. So yay. Exactly. Tom Christopher says, Chasson de Guest, required reading in junior freshman history. We're not letting you study modern history before you've done medieval. Yeah, pretty much. But it's a brilliantly written fairy tale-esque myth-style quest that really is about the character's journey and then bonding on the journey and the slow build to relying and trusting on each other, and then an actual healthy relationship build. So I would say that this is a brilliant, brilliant story, and if you enjoy those kind of tales, you should go pick up Blessing of the Equinox, which is book 1 in this series by Catherine Reynolds. You can find it on Amazon. And like I said, it was currently free on Kindle Unlimited. Coldrake says, I think Prax just picks the books with the prettiest cover art. No. I just happen to pick really good books that have really pretty cover art. And now the spoiler tag is going up. Hi. This book. This book. This book. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Yes. All of the yes. Also, who doesn't want a 6'5" dwarf? Yes, those words just come out of my mouth. She uses the term dwarf, but we're talking there. It's a joke in the book. I have to like. It is hilarious. It is a joke in the book. That literally, one of the lines is, she says, "I thought all dwarves were short and had long beards," and he goes, "No, that's just what humans used to think. Are all witches, craggly backed and have humps with warts?" Okay, look, he is just this, and they both have value on this quest. He is not just there to save her, and she is not just a damsel in distress. She has magic. She can use it. She also has a bow and knows what to do with it. And he is there as her bodyguard and can do a lot of things as with a weapon and a sword and a shield. And he good fighter man person, but he also respects her as a witch and respects her capabilities with a bow. And those things are so positive. Also, the relationship, so positive. Just the fact that their relationship is healthy and that they kind of come to it as equal partners. And there is one point where, like, he is an outcast from his society. Why is he an outcast? And they have to go there, and there are kind of questions, and she doesn't know. And she's like, "I know you. You're a really good guy. Like, everything I've experienced about you is really, really positive. Why do you think you're an outcast?" Because I didn't tell anyone that I did a thing to kind of protect someone, and I took the blame for that. And she's like, "Yeah, I kind of figured that out. That's not that big a deal." He goes, "Yeah, and one other kind of point before you make any decisions about getting involved with a romantic relationship with me, I kind of didn't tell you that I'm a very high-ranking individual within my culture." She's like, he goes, "So I want to treat you right and court you." She goes, "That's great. We can come back to that point. Can we just have sex now?" We'll come back to the complicated political fallout that will be a witch and a mortal witch and a semi-immortal dwarf having a relationship in a hot second. Can we just... And it works. It works so well. Yes. All of the yes. Yeah, I mean, it has a lot of Campbell's Hero's Journey quest in here, but it's less Campbell's Hero's Journey and more mythic journey, right? Like, less tragedy than a Greek myth journey, but a lot of the same kind of Celtic myth that you see where this horrible thing is happening. To deal with this horrible thing, I need to go on a quest through the Fey realms. I need to do this journey and then come back, probably changed in some manner because you're traveling through the Fey realms, and then confront whatever this creature, the threat is, right? And because of that, yeah, and not for nothing, like, the point of this book is that the blessing of the equinox is to travel. She needs to take the shiny sword that she's got in the cover. She needs to take shiny elven sword to the Fey realms and get it blessed by the Lady of Autumn and the Lady of Spring. And at the same time, avoid the courts of summer and winter. and Queen Mab and the eternal fighting that goes on for the elves. And like, it is brilliantly written. It is also a short book. It could pass, it's over 200 pages, so I would say that it is a novel. It's a short novel, but it's more than a novella, and I think the difference is that it feels like the beginning to book one, and it feels very much like it is the quest within book one will be the fallout from the quest in book one will be the cause and inciting incident for the rest of the stories that are involved. Yes. All of the good. I think this is a brilliant book, and I'm very much looking forward to book two. It's third person perspective, but you kind of get third person perspective from both Marsilia and Frels at various points. Fjell. Fjell. If somebody who speaks any of the northern languages could tell me how to pronounce that, I would really appreciate it. Actually, no, there's a pronunciation guide in the book. Let me check the pronunciation guide in the back of the book. Fjellulfsen. I was correct. Fjellulfsen. It is also a brilliant, brilliant book. Oh, I haven't read the October Day series yet, Faison. I'll have to look that one up. Oh wait, so Coldrick, you're listening to this as an audiobook? Do you have the where did you get the audiobook for? Are you reading? So Blessing of the Equinox you're listening to as an audiobook? Because if that's true, oh, you're listening to Goblin Emperor as an audiobook. There you go. Enjoy that. Goblin Emperor is amazing and I love it. Yes, so right now, Blessing of the Equinox is free on Kindle Unlimited, and it's yes, Goblin Emperor has brilliant descriptive language. Family is more than blood and birthright. Our past will always catch up to us, and fate binds us all high and low to their destiny. Do they have an audiobook? Who gave... Wait, what? Who gave you a 1-star review? What? What? They didn't give any reviews. They just gave 1-star ratings. Okay, those are assholes. I hate people like that. Oh, Shannon McGuire. I will have to look that. I have seen a bunch of that, Faye, but I haven't read them yet. So I'll have to check those out for the October Day. Goblin Emperor is one of my favorites. Straight up, one of my favorite standalone novels of all time. So I was very excited to read Grief of the Stones and Witness for the Dead. But taking the spoiler tag down, TLDR, read this book, support indie authors, support self-published authors. This is a really great one, and I think will be appreciated going forward by a lot of people. That's my TLDR. I think you will all enjoy. Yes. In that same vein, okay, we'll talk about that in a minute. Before we go to break, because I want to talk about this entire series longer. So I have book 2, The Wolf and the Warlock, which is, can we just take a minute to appreciate this art? Like, Catherine does all her own cover art. Is this not gorgeous? Can we not love this? And if you want to follow her, she's at Cozy Catherine on Twitch. Absolutely brilliant author. Find her on Twitch, on Instagram, all of these things. They could be tarot cards. All of the covers could be tarot cards. Also, can we take a minute to appreciate the fact that all of the spines have the series order number on them? I just love that. And I'm looking forward to seeing where this myth story continues and how it will get so much better. Exactly, Faye. You would not believe how annoying it is to pick up a book and be like, okay, you say this is a member of a series, but which volume in the series is it? It's not on the spine. It's not on the cover. You have to open the inside and look at the list of books to figure that out. Just give it to me on the spine. Yes, Time, you can come back. We are talking about the fact that I have picked up book 2 for the Fey Realm series, and I will be reading that for our next meeting, which will be the 27th. And so I will... Oh, excuse me. My apologies. This is the sequel to this, and I am very much looking forward to reading this. This took me 2.5... This I read in 2.5 hours. I just did not put this down. This one will probably be the same. That kind of very much myth or fairy tale-esque pacing, which is why I don't think they're really like novellas, even though they're short. I think they really are novels in the way that they're written, in the way that they're presented. But before we take a short break, I wanted to show something else that I got. I got A Fellowship of Bakers and Magic, which is book 1 of Adenishire. And I had read this. I have this as an ebook. I got this as an ebook. I pre-ordered the ebook and got the ebook and read it. And was the paperback edition, the physical edition, hadn't been published yet. It took a little bit longer, so I waited and got it after Christmas with Christmas money. Hey, Hawkeye, welcome in, welcome in. And I bought this book because I loved it that much. This book is sweet, cozy, fun. Here we go. A human, a dwarf, and an elf walk into a bake-off. In the heart of Adenishire, where elfish entertainments and dwarven delights rule, Arletta Starstone, a human confectionist, works twice as hard, perfecting her unique blend of baking and apothecary herbs. So when an orc neighbor secretly enters her creations into the prestigious elven baking battle, Arletta faces a dilemma. Being magicless, her participation in the competition could draw more scowls than smiles. And if Arletta wants to prove her talent and establish her culinary reputation, this human will need more than just her pastry craft to sweeten the odds. While competing, she'll set off on a journey of mouth-watering pastries, self-discovery, heartwarming friendships, and romance, while questioning whether winning the baking battle is the true prize. Escape to Adenishire for a delightful, cozy fantasy where every twist is a treat and every turn a step closer to home. Also, it's kind of really obvious, this is the romance, this is the romantic interest, and one of the most important things about this book is Oh yeah, this is a zero spice romance if we wanted to call it that. Like there's a kiss on screen. But the quote unquote fated mate trope, yeah, but enthusiastic and verbal consent is much more important. This book talks about enthusiastic and verbal consent, and just because somebody could be in love with you doesn't necessarily mean that it is the right time for the two of you to have a romantic relationship for a variety of reasons. It is very well done. I love this book. But the other reason I got the physical copy of this book, in addition to supporting the author, because I think that this book needs more love and support, the Langhelm Baking Battle Recipes. Yes, the back of this book, A Fellowship of Bakers and Magic, contains 3 recipes that are actual recipes that the character, Arletta, here she is, Arletta, bakes for the book, in the book. They are recipes that the character bakes in the book. So I had to get the physical copy. Also, if you like cozy fantasy, if you like kind of heartwarming, positive female relationships, friendships, and interactions, and interesting kind of play on tropes for various, fantasy characters, this book takes those tropes that you think you know and plays on them. So much so that what I have said on multiple venues and on various platforms, and hi, Jennifer Penner, who is the author, brilliant author, love this book. Yeah, if you see this, by the way, I just need to know more about the Orc Dads. Hashtag Orc Dads book when? Because the orc that is mentioned on the back of this book about entering Arletta's pastry in the competition is one of the 2 the gay orc dads that lives next door, who one of them is a woodworker and one of them owns the bookshop, and they have lived on the other side of this duplex from Arletta for years and have basically like adopted her after her parents died. And I just need to know more about the supportive, quiet orc dads who are wood carvers and bookshop owners. There we go. It is it is indeed the icing on the cake, but it is the icing on the cake that includes, so there are 3 recipes in the back here. The first one is for salted brown butter chocolate chip cookies. The next one is for lemon bars with cardamom shortbread crust. And the final one is for Earl Grey cherry scones. There you go. And Coldrake, you're way off the track on your depiction of dwarfs. In this book, the dwarf is named Dolly, D-O-L-I, and she can do tea magic. She can literally has her own teacup and saucer that she's got, like a teacup and saucer holster on her dress that she wears all the time and brings it with her, and she can just wave her hand over the teacup and have tea anytime that she wants. Any kind of tea. Tea on demand. Also, go follow Jennifer Penner on Instagram, because she does beautiful work on Instagram, but she's also started promoting book 2, which is going to be about Dolly and a library and dragons. There are dragons mentioned. I was like, I'm good. You've got me at the words dragons and libraries. So, more people go read this book. More people go read this book so I can talk to you about it. Okay. 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 Oh, Coldrake, it is... oh, wait, do we have... is there... Okay. Has they posted any of the pictures? Okay. So, just to show you... Book 2 is titled A Fellowship of Librarians and Dragons. Can we take a minute to appreciate tiny, tiny Fey dragon? Tiny, tiny dragon and dragon boy, but tiny dragon. Dragon boy is nice, but tiny dragon. And this is Dolly and her little teacup holster. I am so excited for this. I cannot wait. Tiny dragon. He's just so cute. Tiny dragon. Sure. The author's name is Jennifer Penner. What I'm going to do is go ahead and drop her link. Put the Amazon link for you in the chat, and I'll even make sure to put her author link as well. And when I post these on YouTube, as you know, I always post all of the author, all of the books with their author pages at the bottom underneath in the description. It is a really nice short little read. It's cozy, it's wholesome, and I think more people should read it so we can talk about all of the cuteness. But now that I could get the, got a bunch of gift cards for Christmas, so that was one of the first physical books. It was one of the physical books I bought with Christmas money. Now that it is physically out. I think the audiobook is also out. I think it is out. So the paperback is out, and you can also get a there's also an ebook available. Don't know why it's not popping up, but is an ebook. There's a physical book, and I think that there's like a I think there's an audiobook in the works. I don't know yet. I think that's a thing. I don't swear to it. But if that is, I'll put a link to it in the description when it goes up on YouTube. But okay, we're going to do the spoiler-free review for Bone Ship's Wake. And then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back, and it will be a spoiler-heavy review of the series, because I have feelings, y'all. I have so many feelings. But we're going to do this spoiler-free review of Bone Ship's Wake, which is book 3 in the Tide Child series by R.J. Barker. Okay, so first of all, emotions. Second of all, I feel like this is a brilliant, brilliant conclusion to this trilogy. One of the things I said last week when we were talking about this series and the fact that I was going to finish it this week was that I don't need happy endings. I need satisfactory endings. This book had a very, very satisfactory ending. It made sense for the characters. It made sense for the world that was created. It made sense for everything, and it's a tragic, it's a gut punch. And I told people that it would make me feel things. This book made me feel lots of things. This is also, I think, the longest of the three. Yeah, this is the longest of the three, including the epilogue. But it takes where we ended with Call of the Bone Ships. Don't break the Lego. There we go. Takes where we ended with Call of the Bone Ships, which is book 2, and puts us in a position that I kind of expected based on the ending of the second book, and fulfills on the premise that it created 110-fold. Like, this book took all of the points that it was setting up in books 1 and book 2 and drove them home so well that you're like, oh, so these points, oh, all of these things that are going to be in here. And as I said before, this series really earns all of the emotional gut punches that it gives you. There have been books where I feel like they try and twist your emotions just to twist your emotions. That's not this. Every emotional moment in this book serves both the plot and the themes of the book, while also being an emotional gut punch that makes you want to go, fucking hell. So, review as the book as a standalone story, and that's the thing, is like, this is the end of a trilogy, right? So this is book 3 in a trilogy. And one of the things that's very hard to do nowadays is have books that know that they're part of a trilogy be published, be their own complete story. Each individual book be a story in and of itself with a beginning, middle, and end, while still tying to the overarching plot of the whole series. R.J. Barker did a fabulous job with that, and did a really, really great job giving us all a complete story in book 3 that is its own story, right? Like, it is a story of these characters in this moment, but it is also the end of everything that's built up from book 1, and that is brilliantly done. I think the emotions that are described in here, I feel like the way the characters evolve from books 1 and 2 into book 3, all of the choices that are made, you feel each and every one of those choices, and you come into a realization that the way this story develops is both, you know, some of the points you could probably predict, because if you're at all a good, you know, a well-read person, not a well-read person, but a person who reads a lot and follows certain tropes and genres, or even watches certain media, you can follow and see where certain things are going to happen because of decisions that characters are making. But at the same time, the way that is done is top tier, right? Like, you can have a trope be a trope within a book, and if it is executed extremely well, then you don't care, because it is the execution that is the most important part. And it becomes the point at which you're like, oh, 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 oh. And this book, I've been saying this for a while now, and I'm going to keep saying this, and if anybody, R.J. Barker ever sees this, this is me saying that you're a brilliant writer for this, and it is a thing that I have decided is a brilliant, that I didn't know I loved so much, but now I really do. R.J. Barker writes Grimm's fantasy. Not grim dark, but Grimm's dark fantasy. And that's this. In such a way that it is... the world is a breathing world. The sea is so intimately described in this book. The ships are brilliant. All of the characters are brilliant. And the screen time, I mean, it's a book series about sailing it's about a book series where in the culture of the people of this world sail the skeleton bones of dead dragons. Just stop and take that into it for a minute and think about that. just think about that. And how those worlds and how that world develops, and how the ship as a creature, Coldrake, there's a lot more to it than that. Coldrake says dragon bones are stronger than flimsy wood. This is true, but it's a lot more complicated in this world and the way in which it's presented. Another thing tied to the way this world is presented, R.J. Barker did a brilliant job of thinking through the minutia of the world that he built and then going for it. Like, he created this world as this existing premise and then gave this description, and then he goes through every time that this would be an effect or how this would affect someone or what they would think about it, and it takes... He considers each of these effects. For example, they don't say port and starboard, they say landward and seaward. And in the book, they don't say right and left, because this is a society where 90% of people spend time at sea. So it's not about right or left, it's landward or seaward. Even down to somebody saying in this book, I'm landward handed. I will fight better on a spiral. I should be first because I can fight better on the spiral staircase. And you have to stop and go, oh shit, they're saying that she's left-handed, and because of that, in a tight quarters of a spiral staircase, the individual who is left-handed going up the spiral staircase is actually going to be more able to swing the sword, because that would be the outside arm of the ascending the spiral staircase, than the person who is seaward, i.e. right-handed, who would be against the spiral wall. It is brilliant. And it is perfectly executed throughout the entire book. Now, these books also have an appendix at the back where they give, etymology of the different terms that they are using, and we have a brilliant map at the beginning of this book. It is so pretty. Look at the pretty of that map. And it takes a couple reading through until you realize that these markings on the outside of this print, on these pages, are intentional. Because this is the map that is created by the map maker and chart reader in the book on the ship. So yes, I can't really give a non-spoiler filled review discussing any points on this book, because this book is such a direct sequel to this that I can't even read you the back of the book without giving you spoilers for Call of the Bone Ships. So, my quick TLDR about this series is read it. Go get it from your library. Go get it from a friend who has the book. Read it on your e-reader. Read it in physical copy. However you want to read this book series, read this series. Enjoy it. It is a full-on 10 out of 10. Go read this book. Look, I will tell you to go buy only buy books if you can afford it. But also buy books if you can, or go to your library if you're not sure if this is a thing for you. But engage with the material in such a way that is not piracy, but is engaging with material. So, that is my review of these series. After having finished this whole series and finished Gods of the Weirdwood, R.J. Barker is now officially on one of the authors that is an automatic pickup. I never say anything is an automatic read, because there could be plots or premises or content warnings that you as an individual may not jive with in a particular book by a particular author. But this author is one that I will always, anytime I see a new book by them, I will automatically pick it up and see if it is a book I wish to read. And then if it is not a book I wish to read, it will probably be because it's some kind of topic that I don't want to read. But yes, 1,000 times yes. Yes. So, as Coldrake says, high seas piracy is yar. Literary and art piracy is a no-no. True. Do not pirate books. Do not pirate movies. Do not pirate anything else. Please and thank you. But do read these books. Pick them up. Find them in your library. Find them on Amazon if you've got Kindle, if you've got e-readers, the Barnes & Noble, your independent bookstores. The publisher is Orbit. You can find that. And again, I will make sure to link all of the books that we talk about in the description when it goes up on YouTube. So we're going to take a break. About 5-10 minutes. And when we come back, there will be a very, very, very heavily spoiler-ridden review of this trilogy, because I need to talk about it. And if you don't want to be here for that, I understand. And I will not judge. But I need to talk about it. And I also need to just tell y'all, can you see this? Do you see those little markers that are in this book? Those are points where I just need to talk about things. So we're going to take a break, stretch, bio. I'll run the ads during the break. So if you want to, take a minute, we'll be right back. And I can't wait to talk to you about this series. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We hope you're refreshed, you stretched, you bioed, and the spoiler tag is going up. Because as I said, I'm going to do a really kind of in-depth review of the series, the trilogy as a whole, and I can't do that without spoilers. So I'm going to put the spoiler tag up and then give you, and then of course take it down. Yes, I will not in any way, shape, or form judge anybody who slinks away because of the spoilers from the spoiler tag. But again, I will take it down as soon as I can. But if you want my unspoiled opinion, go read these books. Just go read them, enjoy them, go read them. But spoilers going up in 3, 2, 1. Okay. So these books, all of these books, please go read these books. They are brilliantly written, brilliant trilogy, and it's just such a good series. So I've talked before about the fact that the primary characters are these condemned criminals on a ship of the damned, black ship, ship of the dead, that are already condemned for various crimes and therefore are on a ship that is basically so that they can die in service to their nation. And this world is built on these series of archipelagos inside this sea, which is a bounded sea because there are so many storms that literally are giant storms to the north, east, south, and west, where no one can leave this one location. So there's the 100 Isles is one nation, and the other nation is the Gaunt Isles. And realistically, they're basically the same culture, that have split from each other and caused a schism. But they all speak the same language, they all have the same practices. There are slight variations between the Gaunt Isles and the 100 Isles, but they are variations that are based on the fact that there was this schism. And now there is a ongoing hundreds of years old war between these two groups. So much so that nobody really knows what they're fighting for. All they really know is that we hate those people over there and they do bad things. That's it. But it's like they speak the same language, even down to the same accent or similar accent. Like, I think the differentiation that's kind of described is like the differentiation between, it is so minute, it would be considered the differentiation between somebody who speaks with an English accent versus a New England accent. Like, that's it. But even then, it's not that. It's like various types of English accents or various types of American accents. There is no differentiation between these people, and that's one of the important points in this book, is that there is no reason for these two people to be fighting. And the primary characters of this book start this journey, or of this trilogy and series, I should say, start this journey in book 1 with the idealized goal of creating a way to prevent their two peoples from continuing to kill each other, and possibly creating like a separate home for people who don't want to be involved in these ongoing fights, and the way in which that has shaped their culture to such a degree. Hey Jim, welcome in. We are talking about the Bone Ship's the Tide Child trilogy by R.J. Barker. Spoiler tag is up. So much of their cultures are tied to, and the actions and choices within their cultures are tied to the fact that they are literally at war with these other people and have been for centuries, like hundreds and hundreds of years. And oh God, this is so hard and awkward to say, but but the author makes a point of it in the acknowledgments of book 3 about how he went all in to try and avoid ever using the word sail, because that has certain connotations in English, but that's not a word that they use because that's not the word that they think. But their ships are bone ships. They're literally ships made out of the bones of sea dragons. Okay? Giant sea dragons. And then instead of defining the size of a ship based on the number of masts like we would in our own age of sail, they decide the size of the ship off of the number of ribs that make up the hull. Like a 2 rib, or a 4 rib, or a 5 rib. And you're like, oh, that's a very visual understanding of the size and scope of a giant fucking dragon ship. Right? Like, if I say that our ship is a 5 rib off of the skeletal structure of a dragon, I would say that that would be very, very descriptive. He also talks about the gods in this world are the maid, the maiden, the mother, and the crone. Or the maiden, the mother, and the hag, excuse me. And you go into the hag's locker is death, and the hag's bower is the point below decks where the doctor is, and whether that actually is like a butcher surgeon as our own age of sail or like an actual doctor is complicated. It's complicated. But their society is so tied into this perfect idealization of always fighting these people on these other islands, and the main characters who are on this ship, the Tide Child, and the Tide Child itself is its own character. And it becomes even more of its own character throughout the series and throughout books 1, 2, and 3. And you really kind of feel... And there's like this question that keeps getting asked is like, is this ship haunted? And you're like, well, that's a very legitimate question to ask when you realize that the ship is literally made from the bones of a dead dragon. Like, is the ship haunted? Like, you know, we're sailing the skeletal structure of a giant sea creature. Or as they like to use the term, flying. The ship flies over the sea. And you're like, interesting, here for it. A lot of the terminology and the way in which it's built into the world is very, very intentional, right? And it's very, very obvious that it is very intentional. And that R.J. Barker thought through the effects of these terminology and what it would have on the reader and how it works in the world. Like, you could have... The ships are all referred to as masculine. And the captains aren't captains, but shipwives. So the shipwife is what we would consider a captain. But think about that further, is like, okay, so the shipwife is married, quote-unquote married, shipwife of a male personified dead dragon ship. That means something, right? Like, that kind of has a whole lot of meaning there. And, you know, their other positions on the ship are also kind of intentional, and, like, they're not crew members. They're deck children. Okay, so that kind of says a lot about how they view the ship as a whole, the interactions of the crew and the ship and the captain and various other officer positions. Very, very intentional and very, very thought out. And has an impact, right? It has like a meaning and an impact and an effect for all of this. There are also another species. Let me rephrase this. Another sentient and sapient species that can communicate, that has certain magical powers on this vessel. And that is the Wind Talkers, or that are... They're bird people, right? Like, they're bird people that have been press ganged and kind of forced through not so great means to become on ships, and each one, they have the power to control wind for a limited amount of time. Like, they can actually create wind in whatever direction you want to go. And you're like, that is... Oh. That says a lot. Then there's... And what that means and how that works, and not just within, like, their societal structure and how the oppression of this species by humans... Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you could just mute... People who have to mute in the tab, I'm so sorry. But the world and the species, and how those two species interact, and how this environment changes, are very, very interesting. Now, the main character, there are a lot of main characters, but the two major point of view character, the main point of view character that we follow is Jaren Tiniver. He is... And his growth from the beginning of the series as this kind of very depressed, being condemned for something that really he shouldn't have been condemned for, even if he did kill somebody, but it was an honorable duel, there within society regulations, but people took advantage of his lesser societal rank to imprison him for things that really he shouldn't have been imprisoned for. And then how that kind of harmed him. But then he meets Mias, who takes over as shipwife, who herself had been kind of an outcast, but at the same time is called Lucky Mias, because she should have died multiple times within their society, because as the firstborn of her mother, she should have been sacrificed to the gods as corpse lights on the ship. Yeah, that's not a creepy factor in this story at all, that the entire firstborn children are always, you know, if they're healthy, and that's the thing, is that they have to be healthy and the mother has to survive, in which case, yeah, it's an interesting look at their world. And who has power and authority are those women who have more live births that survive childhood. Like, the current leader of the 100 Isles is called 13 Burn. She literally gave birth to 13 children. And that is why she has the societal power that she does. But Jaren is not of that. He is of a lower caste, lower society, and then he gets condemned to this ship. Mias comes on and they want to create a better world. And you know that's not going to happen, right? Like, you know, as the reader, you want that to happen, but it's not. It's they're not in any position to really do that. So you get to book 2, where they're trying for that. And then what little thing that they've built, this little safe harbor that they've built, is destroyed and their people are taken, and they're trying to get them back because they find out why their people were taken. And it's dark. It is fucking dark. In such a brilliant way and so brilliantly written. I have so much love for this series. But Jaren is, you know, as a character, is developing through books 1 and 2 and, you know, coming into his own and his own position of authority on the ship. And part of the point is that the old sea dragons are coming back, and they don't... The concern is that humans are going to start killing the sea dragons again to make more ships to continue this war. And that is just not good for anybody. So Jaren and Mias and the crew of the Tide Child and a number of these characters, right? Like, each of these are characters. Go on this journey to get their people back from that were taken from Safe Harbor. But in the course of that journey, discover very, very dark things. And will end up in a position to make certain choices at the end of book 2 that will directly lead you into book 3. But I feel like this is a point where I can give you a couple little tastes, a little snippets of points that are, I think, very much evocative of the book series as a whole. That aren't really spoilers. So, it was the season of dying. Gone were the riotous colors of the growing times, to be replaced by uniform brown as the Verisk and Girion withdrew life from the plants above and stored it in their roots for the next season. In the times of high heat, sometimes leaves blackened, became sharp-edged and flaking to the touch, but the dying season was a time of softness, of wetness, of slipping and sliding along paths as they were slowly revealed by the withering vegetation. There were no firm handholds, no places to put your foot that you could be sure would stay. More often than not, these vines and leaves that covered the floor would split and spill overripe, decaying and stinking liquid from their skins like pus from an infected wound. The smell was no worse than the burning town below, and while it did not choke Joran, it filled the air, coating his mouth and nose, restricting his breathing, and he needed his breath to run. Like, that is a brilliant description of winter without ever saying the word winter. Right? Like, that is just straight up a description of winter without just saying the word winter ever. Then you get to, at times, changed point of view characters. Like, Joran is your primary point of view character, and he's your point of view character through all of book 1. And then book 2 and then book 3, there are, like, points where they will say what this other character did that Joran has no ability to see for a variety of reasons. Like, for example, in this particular instance, Joran is captured and in a box. Like, he is literally in a sea chest. He cannot see what's going on. So you get a change of point of view character. What Mevans did. Now, Mevans was an old sea hand with all the experience and cunning such a thing brought. He knew many a thing, and one of those things he knew many things about was officers. He had particular and very certain beliefs about officers. He knew that when it came to directing a ship and directing a battle and formulating a tactic and such things, an officer was as fine as the mother's breasts. But he also knew that without a crew to look after them, an officer was often likely to trip over some maiden trick as well, never gull a sensible fellow like Mevans. And as such, it did not sit well with him to leave his deck keeper behind To make his way back to the Tide Child, as Mevins believed it entirely likely that his deckkeeper would fall off a harbor or some other such foolishness. You've changed tone, voice, cadence. It's still third-person perspective, but now you've got a new character, and so that new character is bringing in a new form of writing, a new form of style of speech. Like, Mevins is pure gold. That pure, I'm a non-com, and unfortunately I have to babysit baby officers sometimes, but you know what? They're okay. This one's alright. That one, no, but this one's okay. I like this one. So sometimes we have to save them from themselves. Like, I love Mevins as a character. I love Mevins as a character. And it's just this brilliant moment of like, well, I was told to do a thing, but considering that it was a stupid order, I'm not going to obey it. And I'm going to do everything in my power to manipulate things, so even though I am not obeying orders, I am in fact obeying orders. And then this is a point where I love the fact that they add different little sea shanties that are in-world songs into the world, different points of view in the world, and like I said, one of those points of view is for a character, and it's for the character's death scene. And I've said this multiple times that, in my opinion, George R. Martin sometimes fails at making death worthwhile. Like, the deaths are not earned in his book. They're just randomly there. So in this book, there are a number of deaths, right? Like, this is about going to war with basically the two major powers in this world and trying to come out the other side. Not necessarily on top, because you've realized that you can't really get out on top. You have to come through the other side, and you're not sure how. Or at least to try and get as many of your people away as possible. And so you have a lot of death. Like, there is a lot of death. There are brief depictions of unnamed deckhands that die off the screen in this battle that's kind of like, Joran looks up and it's been, like a frenetic depiction of cut, run, stab, run, duck, run, I hear, or whatever. He describes the chaos of battle and hand-to-hand combat very, very well. And then at the brief pause, he looks up and he realizes, oh, we've lost a number of people. They are not people necessarily that the reader has ever met, but they're people that Joran has met, and there's an emotional toll on Joran for that. And that is important. And then when it comes to characters that perhaps the reader has met, and their death would serve both the plot and the tone, you get a moment of seeing the point of view of that character. Like, for example, Baroff. Baroff has an entire chapter where he is a sea guard. He is literally a marine, right? Like, he is a marine, he is an infantryman, he does not belong at sea, he can fight real well on ground, but he is not a seaman, and his entire point is that he hates that hag's cursed ship. And it is a beautiful moment that is then repeated often over and over in multiple chapters, where he talks about the fact that I hate that hag's cursed ship. And you finally get to the point where he knows he's going to die, and his line is, "You go, I think I will stay." A smile crept onto Berhoff's face. "Be glad not to get back on that hag-cursed ship," he said. The smile fell away, replaced by lines of pain. "It has been a good fight, Coughlin." And you're like, that is brilliant writing, where you bring that moment of repetition back. And it is a beautiful tool of the writing to keep bringing that repetition back. in such a way that it serves the plot. Wait. There's... Did I not mark that page? Oh, well, there's a brilliant line. They'll find it later. And that's where, this is the point where I was reading before, is like, I will lead, shouted General. I'm landward handed. Easier for me to fight up a spiral stair. And you're like, oh, you thought about how this is going to work. You thought about the language that would be involved in here, and you can keep consistent in that language. It's a thing that works so well. And then it's just a brilliantly written piece of work that when you get to the end of this book, you have a point where Mias is taken captive. Mias, I don't know. Mias herself offers herself as hostage in negotiating for her crew to escape, because she knows that her mother, who is the 13th Baron, the leader of the 100 Isles, she is one of the children, she is the firstborn of this leader, and this leader is convinced that she has this magical power to summon sea dragons and make them fight for her. And she's like, I will sacrifice myself, my crew will survive, and it will get Jaren away, because Jaren is the one who can do that. Jaren is the one who can summon these sea dragons. And she knows, and she tells Jaren in this book, she literally tells Jaren, everybody breaks. Everybody breaks at some point. And so I will have to give you up. But she won't believe me. And there's no way, when I give you up, when I say that I can't do this, that there's no way for me to do this, I'm being honest, and there's no way, when I break, I cannot do this. Versus if you get captured, you will get tortured and be forced to do this thing because you have that ability. I don't. So she knows that Jaren is important, and she gets Jaren out. Which is where we start book 3. And why I said that the back of book 2 is literally, this is the opening for the back of book 3. Joran Twiner's dreams of freedom lie shattered. His shipwife is gone, and all he has left is revenge. Leading the Black Fleet from the deck of the Tide Child, he takes every opportunity to hurt the 100 Isles, but his time is limited. Yet this is an age of miracles and prophecy. The sea dragons have returned, and who is to say if you can have one miracle, you cannot hope for another. Like, that setup is such a major spoiler for book 2. Just the end of book 2 is straight up the capture of Mias, the shipwife. And you're like, thanks for putting it on the back of book 3. Book 3 is dark. Book 3 is a look at what happens when you honestly believe you have nothing left. And Jaren, at the beginning of book 3, honestly believes that he has nothing left. He believes that he knows that he is slowly dying of disease, that there is no escape from. He knows that he is cursed and, not cursed, but he is condemned to this black ship, and he has now been labeled a traitor. He knows that the shipwife that he follows, who is the epitome of wonderful leader that all of these people look to, that is the, this charismatic leader that all these people are looking to, is captured because she chose to be sacrificed for herself, so she's trying to hold on. We need to save her. And he knows that his lover was killed. By the way, horribly brutal moment, in like a moment of, this is a moment where, God, it was so well done. Because Jaren is leading the assault on the land in book 2, and his lover has just been given his own ship and is going to be one of the ships who are like harrowing the harbor, but they don't know that this particular harbor has put up a basically a trebuchet, a giant catapult, and nobody knows that it's there. Jaren is leading the charge inland, and he is inland when they see this, and he sees it go off and sink his lover's ship. And his lover dies. And the line is literally, I can't deal with this right now. I have to focus on what I've got to focus on. But after the fact, it has an effect on him, and he has considered emotions about it, and he thinks about it, and he talks about it with at least a couple people. And it's like, this is brilliant. This is how you do, George R.R. Martin, a moment, like, unexpected death that no one sees coming, that has a massive emotional impact on the other characters, and have it be worthwhile movement for the story. God, it was so good. But Jaren in book 3 is literally a man with nothing left to lose except his ship. And he's like, well, fuck all y'all. I'm going to be what you claim I am. And this is where we get the Black Pirate Jaren. Black Pirate Jaren is much with the murder. Much with the murder. The beginning of this whole book is murder and sacking of towns. And you're like, and Jaren honestly thinks about it and like honestly questions whether, you know, he's gone too far. If he is lost, you know, if getting Mia's back, she would actually condemn him for what he has done. And it's complicated. My boy has complicated feelings. And then the overarching plot, which I kind of guessed from the middle of book 1, but I really confirmed in the beginning of book 2, of who a particular character really is, that kind of comes to a fruition at the end of the 3rd book. Because the end of the 3rd book, you know, there's no way for the people of this Black Fleet to ever find peace with these 2 warring nations. Like, you know that. It's never going to happen. It's just not possible. And with the rise of these dragons and all of these things, there's a prophecy in place with the bird people and things that are obviously about that, and cyclic behaviors, and all of these things are kind of it's saying over and over again. And so it comes to a point, it's like, they can't stay, they have to leave. And the ending of this book is so well done and so emotional in just the right way. And like, y'all, it is emotional. It is so emotional because they have to leave this world, and how they leave this world is just, oh, it's a gut punch. The best kind of gut punch. And the fact that the final line in the epilogue is the first line of book 1 is perfect. And it sums up everything that this series is. That is how that book series ends. And now I'm taking the spoiler tag down. And now I've taken the spoiler tag down. So y'all can come back. And I promise not to have any more spoilers for this book. Okay, so this is not a spoiler, but this is a line in this book that I think, this is a case of, this is a sentence in this book that isn't a spoiler, but I think does a really good job of highlighting the mood of these characters. So Mias is talking to Jaren, and Jaren asks, find somewhere, taken somewhere, then charts will have been needed. See if you can find out if there are areas my brother has been especially interested in. That may give us some sort of clue. Are there any other well-guarded places I should not be that you would like me to get into, shipwife? He asked. Not at the moment, Joran, she smiled. But when I think of them, you will be the first to know. I'm like, that sums up this book. That sums up the series. That sums up the beauty of this series so well. 10 out of 10. We'll probably reread this series at some point in the near future, just because that's what I do. And the emotions in this book, it is heart. It is so well done. This is a series that stuck the that was good all the way through and stuck the landing. And if any of you read this series, please leave me a comment in below. If you have read this series, leave me a comment below. Either, and let me know what you think, because I loved it. Yeah. So that sums up the 4 books I read this week. Which was The Red Palace by June Her, What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher, The Bone Ship's Wake by R.J. Barker, and The Blessing of Equinox by Catherine Reynolds. For next week, we will not be having a book club meeting because I have to do some things on Saturday. So we will have the following week, the 27th, we will have our community read-along discussion and discussion of the books that I choose to read for those 2 weeks. So for the community read-along, we're reading Steve Berry's Templar's Legacy and Pierce Brown's Red Rising. Because I'm doing a read through. We're gonna do a community read through of both of those series, and me, so that I can reread Red Rising series, and then go read the new Pierce Lightbringer by Pierce Brown that was released November-December of 2023. And Steve Berry, because he's a really great author. I enjoy his work. But I also need to talk about what I'm going to, the general reading that we're going to do. So first up, if you did not know, you should. We're going to read book 2 of The Wolf and the Warlock by Catherine Reynolds. Book 2. Again, currently free if you have Kindle Unlimited as an ebook, or it's $15 on Amazon. To support this indie author. So I'm going to read this probably Monday. Get that done. And then one that has been sitting waiting for me to read for a while, Fonda Lee's Jade City. This is a book that I haven't been able to, I heard a lot about. I got it's another one I got for Christmas, well, with Christmas money, Christmas gift cards. So, for centuries, honorable green bone warriors have used magical jade to enhance their abilities and defend the island of Kekon from foreign invasion. Now the war is over, and a new generation vies for control of Kekon's beautiful capital city. 4 siblings of the powerful Kau family must prepare for battle, and the fragile peace between the clans is about to break. So this is book 1 of the Greenbone Saga. Kind of a steampunk, urban fantasy set in a, fantasy kind of Hong Kong sort of setting. And Fonda Lee is a brilliant, brilliant author, and so I'm kind of looking forward to this. It's been sitting, waiting for me to read for the past couple days. So this, I'm going to talk about this one. And The Wolf and the Warlock. And now we get to ask the question. Okay, we are fully charged. That's good. Okay, so by the way, if you don't know, I've taken to using Storygraph. Very, very useful. I like it because of all of the various pie charts and things that you can kind of read and look at and organize your life based both on your, you know, also it has a scanning feature. It has a scanning feature. So you can scan the barcode and just add it. And it is a joy. I like it. But it also means that it helps me keep track of things that are been published or that I've read about or heard about. Because that's the thing is, like, I don't really have a TBR, which is the to be read pile, because I don't really get books until I'm ready to read them. This, you know, is an example of, I knew I was going to read this in the first couple weeks after Christmas, and I bought a bunch of books together. So I was like, this is going to be for the next week. It's not really a TBR the same way people talk about them. So it's the same kind of different, it's a little bit different. But it does give me a list of, a way of keeping track of books that I've read about or heard about. Or books that I've read. And keeps track of, like, the mood and all of these things. So, okay. I want to make sure. Why is this on here twice? I don't know why this is here. Sometimes it gets a little persnickety. It puts things that you've read multiple times, you know, multiple copies of things you've read on here, or it puts the wrong edition. And that's the one downside. It's a lot better than Goodreads, in my opinion. As a lot of people say, it has much better UI, and that's a thing that's much more useful. So, but it also keeps track of things that you put on your to read pile. Yeah, what is that? Is yeah. Read recently, 5-star. Where is my to read? Okay, here we go. To read pile. So there are a couple books on this list that I'm trying to decide what I want to read next. And I think it's going to be the question of, I will put up a poll. We'll talk about it here. Because like I said, I've got 2 weeks, so I need more than just a couple books to read. Like, this is going to take me a little while, but not very long. And considering I read book 1 of this series in 2.5 hours, I could finish this tonight. I'm not going to, but I could. So I need a little bit, and you know, Red Rising and Templar's Legacy are 2 of the books that I've been reading for a while. So you know, we were reading those as a read along. But the question becomes, I've got a couple books on this list that I think I really want to look at. And I think the question is going to be put to you all. What do you want me to talk about? Because that's part of this thing, right? You know, like some of this is about talking to you all about these books and thinking about things that you might like. Sorry about the water pouring, but you know, I need to stay hydrated. So let's put a poll up. Or let's talk about the options first. Let's talk about the options first, and then I'll put a poll up, and you guys can tell me what you think I should read. So, what are our options? Or what are the options that I've got so far? So there are 8 books on this list. One of which is going to get moved to currently reading. Yep. 2 of which are going to get moved to currently reading. Jade City and The Wolf and the Warlock. So, I've got on here 2 fantasy books by independent authors. One is more fantasy romance kind of book, and the other is big chonker fantasy book. So we've got let's put them up. Let's put them up. So we've got, see if I can't find them all. Peace and Turmoil by Elliot Brooks. Here we go. Which has an absolutely beautiful cover. I'm going to post the link in chat, and then of course I'll put it in the description on the VOD. 30 years of peace have graced the lands of Abram. The waning bloodshed from the War of Fire has ended, and the new generations have only the horrid tales of their forefathers to remind them of their country's past. Poverty no longer prevails. The sights and palms of men have grown soft, yet 4 nations dictate more power than they know. Civil unrest stirs amongst the first, the heir to the throne of Mysidia, and the guardian to its dagger, questioned by a growing rebellion. To its south lies a country of scholars, the mighty nation of Zenith, liberators of the War of Fire, and guardians of the amulet. Over the dividing wall lives the newly freed Sadi, a kingdom with an assassin for a prince and an insurgents at its heels. The fourth is the ancient realm of Eve, the land across the sea, gifted and cursed with the sight as it shows them what's to come. Only one knows the fate of the world, but all will be pawns in its reckoning. Peace and Turmoil will feature a great deal of both character art and monster art. Below are some first looks. Interesting. Interesting. Here for, you know, all of this. Ooh, an interactive map. Ooh, I like it. I like it. I like it. We have an interactive map, a playlist, and a trailer. I'm not going to play the trailer but I will share the trailer. Oh, I can't play it. Come on, guys. You know I can't play it. Okay, well, I can't... It won't let me share it without, you know, playing it. So, that's Peace and Turmoil by Elliot Brooks, book 1 in the Dark Shores series. She has finished book 2, but it's not been released yet. So, that's option 1. That is a very big chunker of book. But I got like 2 weeks to read it. Then the other one that we had is other independent author fantasy is Elizabeth Wheatley's Dangerous Assassin book series, Dangerous Assassin, which she has in both ebooks, audiobooks, and physical books. I love the fact that she puts them in order. Born to be a sorceress, cursed to be an assassin, chosen to be his empress. Alright, this is the second option. Magic has 2 immutable rules. Every spell requires a sacrifice, and every curse can be broken. Amira Brindanu is a sorceress turned assassin, bound in a curse that forces her to obey her father, even to the point of high treason. When he orders her to kill the future emperor, she fails, but discovers a secret that could bring the whole of the empire to its knees. The Archduke is stricken by a curse that could sentence him and his people to damnation, but Amira could be the only key to breaking it. In a desperate last-ditch effort, the Archduke takes Amira prisoner and makes a pact to protect her from her curse if she will help free him from his own. As time begins to run out, Amira soon learns that there are enemies that blades can't touch, and there are fates worse than death. Caught in a web of sorcery, intrigue, and her growing feelings for the Archduke, the assassin must decide just how much she is willing to give to save the only man she's ever loved. Every curse can be broken, but can 2 cursed people save each other? Ooh, I like this. I think we're going to read this. Who gave it a 3-star review? Wow, wait. Can we take a minute to look at this? Let's not even look at the rest of this. Let's just focus on this part right here. Your reason you gave a book 3 stars is because you wanted it to have more sex. Did it make the book bad? Was it... Also, this comment, I'm a lazy reader and hate long, weird names. Stop reading fantasy then. Like, this book is not for you. I'm sorry it's not for you, but let's move on. Every other review of this book is 5 stars. It is literally this one person who didn't like it to like this comment, which by the way is probably a spoiler for the book. Dangerith has decided, because I'm actually going to use the character's name and not some short form that this person put in just because they were feeling lazy and not because it is a nickname that he has used in the book. I feel like that's a cop-out. A cop-out. Dangerith has decided to remain celibate until he is rid of his demon. While I respect his choice, a little more banter and a lot more spice would have gone a long way towards maintaining my interest. You don't respect his choice then. And you don't respect the book for giving this character the agency to say, I'm not into sex right now. And instead, you just want male characters or characters in general to be agents of sexual action. I don't think fantasy is for you. I think you should go back to reading smut. Because that's not what this is, and this book isn't sold to you this way. If you pick up, like, I can understand a review. Like, okay, let's take a side tangent. Come with me on this tangent, right? Because I've gotten trapped on the backside, the quote-unquote spicy side of Bookstagram, and I'm like, girl, just call it porn. Just call it smut. Is a book spicy? No, because I never tried to eat it. Right? Like, fine. Whatever. You want to do you, you do you. But if you're going to rate a book that you go into knowing it is a fantasy book with romance in it. It is not an erotica novel. You can't judge the book that it's not erotica novel. Like, that's like saying, oh, I'm going to get mad that I picked up a pepperoni pizza and it is not a lasagna. Like, yeah, you knew that. And then you consumed it anyways, and now you're mad that you didn't get what you wanted? Like, that's... I don't understand that. Like, you can talk about the execution of the pepperoni pizza being not a good pizza in comparison to other pizzas, but if you just wanted lasagna, then stop saying that you ordered a pepperoni pizza and that you wanted lasagna. I'm sorry, I just don't... I'm sorry for you, Jim. Like, I don't honestly get that. I don't honestly get that. And the comparison that another reviewer made was to Diana Gabaldon, i.e., Outlander, right? Like, it's romance, yes, but it's also, like, plot. There is a big old plot here. So this is option 2, is Dangerous Assassin, which I definitely plan to read in the near future. I just don't know if that's what we're going to read next. Yeah, that was my question. It's like, why? Then we have a historical mystery. With Laura Jo Rowland. Laura Jo Rowland, who, and her Sano Ichiro series, which I believe begins with the first books. Okay, wait, wait, is that the order that they're supposed to be in? Okay, 1994, 96, 97. Okay, so you put them in. Okay. Okay, 1709. This is a case of, please tell me which book is number 1. Okay. Shinju. Shinju by Laura J. Rowland. J-O-H. Rowland. It is January 1689 in Edo, the city that would one day become Tokyo. The bodies of beautiful noblewomen and a male commoner bound together are dragged from the murky Sumida River, a typical Shinju, a ritual double suicide committed by a pair of star-crossed lovers. But when Sano Ichiro, a teacher, samurai, and reluctant police officer, begins a routine investigation, he comes to suspect murder. Disobeying direct orders to close the case discreetly, he pursues elusive answers from the ornate mansions of the highest-born daimyos to the gaudy pleasure quarters of the lowest castes, from a cloistered mountaintop convent to a horrid prison where death is a blessing. He risks his family's good name and his own life to solve a crime that nobody wants solved. As he unravels the twisted story behind the deaths, he stumbles upon a trail of deceit and assassination that threatens the very underpinnings of the shogun's Japan. So, that's option 3. I like it. There are a large number of these books. I see what you did there, Tom. And then option 4... is Rebecca Roanhorse. Books. Okay, so Fevered Star is the sequel to Black Sun. Okay. Fiction, non-fiction. Black Sun. Here we go. A novel by Rebecca Roanhorse. Here we go. In the holy city of Tova, the winter solstice is usually a time for celebration and renewal. But this year it coincides with a solar eclipse, a rare celestial event prescribed by the sun priest as an unbalancing of the world. Meanwhile, a ship launches from a distant city bound for Tova and set to arrive on the solstice. The captain of the ship, Giala, is a disgraced teak whose song can calm the waters around her as easily as it can warp a man's mind. Her ship carries one passenger. Described as harmless, the passenger, Serapio, is a young man, blind, scarred, and cloaked in destiny. As Giala well knows, when a man is described as harmless, he usually ends up being a villain. Crafted with unforgettable characters, Rebecca Roanhorse has created a brilliant world that shows the full panoply of human grace and depravity. This epic adventure explores the decadence of power amidst the weight of history and the struggle of individuals swimming against the confines of society and their broken pasts in this absolutely tremendous and most original series debut of the decade. I've heard really, really good things about Black Sun, and Rebecca Roanhorse is a brilliant author. And I don't want to... And she writes, you know, she writes a bunch of novels in a bunch of other platforms and is also written for TV. So. And she's done work on the Disney Plus series Echo that dropped this week because she is a Native American indigenous person and has written a brilliant book. So that's option 5. Rebecca Roanhorse. And then we have 6 and yeah, we have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this is book option 4, I guess. And option 5 is a series I've heard a lot about. The Sebastian de Castel, the Greatcoats series, Traitor's Blade. The Greatcoats, legendary heroes, arbiters of justice, or notorious traitors. The king is dead, and the Greatcoats have been disbanded, and Falatio Valmond and fellow magistrates Kest and Brosti have been reduced to working as bodyguards for a nobleman who refused to pay them. Things could be worse. Their employer could be lying dead on the floor while the 3 of them are forced to watch as the killer plants evidence framing them for murder. Oh wait, that's actually exactly what happened. First in the acclaimed Greatcoats series of swashbuckling adventures, Traitor's Blade took the fantasy world by storm, gathering praise for blah blah blah. As members of the legendary Greatcoats, Falatio, Kest, and Brosti once brought justice to a troubled kingdom with their knowledge of the king's laws and their skills with the blade. But now the king is dead, the Greatcoats have been disbanded, and a royal conspiracy is about to unfold in the most corrupt city in the world that could mean the ruin of everything Falatio, Kest, and Brosti have fought for. If the trio want to unwind the conspiracy, save the innocents, and reunite the Greatcoats, they'll have to do it with nothing but the tattered leather coats on their backs and the swords in their hands, because these days every noble is a tyrant, every knight is a thug, and the only thing you can really trust is a traitor's blade. So I'm intrigued by this one. Also, liking the art. And the last option is S.A. Chakraborty. Shannon Chakraborty. I believe that's how it's pronounced. In her specifically Empire of Gold. Well, no, Empire of Gold is the final book. Why was that the one that popped up? City of Brass is where we would start. It was City of Brass. Nahiri has never believed in magic. Certainly she has power on the streets of 18th century Cairo. She's a con woman of unsurpassed talent. But she knows better than anyone that the trade she uses to get by, palm readings, czars, and mysterious gift for healing, are all tricks. Both the means to the delightful end of swindling, outwitting Ottoman nobles, and a reliable way to survive. But when Nahari accidentally summons Dara, an equally sly, darkly mysterious Jinn warrior to her side during one of her cons, she's forced to reconsider her beliefs. For Dara tells Nahari an extraordinary tale. Across hot and wind-swept sands, teeming with creatures of fire and rivers, where the mythical Mariad sleep, past ruins of once magnificent human metropolises, and mountains where the circling hawks are not what they seem, lies Davabad, the legendary city of brass, a city to which Nahari is irrevocably bound. So, those are our options. City of Brass, Dangerous Assassin, Shinju, Trader's Blade, Black Sun, and Pursuit and Turmoil. So, I'm going to put up a poll. Poll. New poll. What is Prax going to read? Dangerous Assassin, Shinju, Peace and Turmoil, Trader's Blade, Black Sun. Oh, I can't put another option on there. That's sadness. Or City of Brass. If you want me to vote for City of Brass, type it in the chat. I'm going to leave this poll up for 5 minutes. There you go. We've got a poll. Got a poll going. This will give me a minute while you do that to take a second to see about adding the rest of the series of the City of Brass to that to read pile. There we go. But we are taking a minute to figure things out. Also up to 3,500 pages. So, hope you all are voting. Hope you're feeling good. Thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you for hanging out as we talk about books, which I think is a good thing. I like these books we're going to talk about. I have a bunch of other books and things. I think adding more authors and a variety of authors is good. Both independent and traditionally published authors, self-published and traditionally published authors, fantasy, sci-fi, mystery, general fiction, kind of horror. All of these things are good. I like books. I like the way in which we react to books and the way they tell stories. But we should be winding things up. So we know, let's see, got these two definitely reading. That would be my dog going crazy in the background. This is Red Rising. How long is Red Rising? 400 pages, 393. 394. Yeah. Okay. If you have any thoughts about any of the books we've been talking about so far today, anything that you want to share or have been reading or are engaging with in a written form, let me know. I would love to know your opinions about some of these books. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, we've got just a couple minutes here left on this poll. Lots of... Oh, that's the other book I wanted to add to my list of books to follow. I think that's a better description of how I consider books. Books to follow, as in, you know, books I want to look at versus books necessarily to be read. Because something that ends up on my... It's not to be read, it's books that I'm interested in picking up and looking at, seeing if I actually do want to read. Probably because somebody else has mentioned it or something. And, you know... And then I look... Okay, so I'm looking at the top 100 of Barnes & Noble. Really, guys? Really? Okay. So we have a result, and only 3 of you voted, and each of you voted for a different book. Each of you voted for a different book. Okay, so then that is our list of 3, and we're gonna create a new poll. What is Prax going to read? And then we only have 3 options. Drifts, Assassin, Peace and Turmoil, and then the third book was Black Sun. Alright, so these are your 3 options. Actually, no. I'll give you like a minute. So I'm looking at the Barnes & Noble Top 100 Best-Selling Books as of right this minute. And 1, 2, 3... 3 of the top 10 are Sarah J. Maas. Okay. 2 of the top 10 are Lee Bardago. Another Sarah J. Maas in the top 4 to 15. So 4 in the top. Just Sarah J. Maas. I guess Book Talk has really kind of taken over. Very intrigued by this. It's just like I'm sitting here looking at all of the ways in which Instagram and TikTok have influenced people's purchasing, which is interesting. I'm just very intrigued by that. Very, very intrigued. All right. We're going to end the poll now. We're going to view the results. Only one of you has voted. Come on, y'all. Vote. Vote. Click above you in the chat. It has the little votey thingy. Have more of you voted? Nope. Okay. Okay. 2 of you have voted. Yay, we have more than 1 vote. All right, we're going to end the poll now then and go with the fact that we're going to read Dangerous Assassin by Elizabeth Wheatley. And so, Dangerous Assassin, I mean, I could add another book, right? That's only 5 in 2 weeks. That's not enough. I need more. I need more. I should add one more. I should add one more. I'm gonna add one more. I'll add Peace and Turmoil. That way we've got 2 indie books. Actually, we've got 6 books, 3 of which are self-published, and then 3 of which are traditionally published. I feel like that's a good balance. 1 sci-fi, 1 very obvious fantasy, 1 kind of sci-fantasy, I guess, fantasy, in Jade City, and then Dangerous and Pursuit of Turmoil are both fantasy, and Steve Berry is thriller, adventure book. It's okay. We're gonna read. Don't worry, Time. I've decided I was going to read it anyways. Because I can only have, like, 5 books isn't enough books for me for 2 weeks. Like, that's just not enough books for 2 weeks. Because remember, that's the thing, is, like, I'm gonna be gone. You know, we're not gonna do this next week. So it has to be for the 27th, which means I need more than books. So 6 is a book. 6 books is what we're gonna have. I will go ahead and actually order those because both of those are self-published. So I want to get them from their individual authors and support the individual authors on their author pages. And then I have a copy of Templar's Legacy, but I think it's in a box right now. Or more accurately, we own a copy. It's just not currently accessible at the moment. So I'm going to get that from the library. And the other 3 I have right here. And so when we come back on the 27th, our community read-along is, we're going to talk about Red Rising, spoiler discussion of Red Rising. Because we're gonna, we want to talk about it as we're gonna reading through it. We're gonna read through the whole series. That's our community read along with Templar's Legacy by Steve Berry, our other community read along. So that will also be a spoiler heavy discussion. Going to read Wolf and the Warlock by Catherine Reynolds, book 2 in the Fey Realm series. Jade City by Fonda Lee. This is book 1 in the Greenbone saga. I always love a good series that calls itself a saga. Dangerous Assassin, which is the first book in the series. Dangerous Assassin is book 1 in the Dangerous Assassin series. I love that. And then Pursuit and Turmoil, which is also a first book. Again, so I will post all of the books that we're going to read and the books that we talked about in the YouTube description when this goes live on YouTube, and along with their author pages, so that you can get information about them through their author pages. And if that's a book you want to buy, there are ways you can buy it, or you can get it from your local library, or see if there's like other ways for you to read the book. But I think that's where we're going to end for tonight, at least our discussion of books. Tomorrow is the series finale of Carousel Court. Right here on this channel, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. It is the year 2000. It is the world. So much has changed since we started this game. And I love every minute of this story that we've built together in this history of this place and things, and the small way in which you got glimpses of this world. And I can't wait to see what my players bring next week, or bring tomorrow, not in next week, tomorrow. Particularly after Trooper decided to drop an emotional bombshell on everybody last time. So yeah, please be here for the conclusion of that series. We've got, you can find me over on Wandering Dam's channel on Monday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, for the premiere of the new season of Vampire the Masquerade Montreal by Night. There are some things that are going on that we ended last season on, and I can't wait to see what happens. And I want credit for not bugging Pope about the secret for entire 3 weeks now. 3 weeks. I get credit. I get credit. I didn't say nothing. I left it alone. But if you want to see that drama and shenaniganry and murder and tension, and did I mention drama? And brilliant role players telling a brilliant story that I'm happy to get to play with. Come hang out with us on Monday night. And then, like I said, this is the end of the current merch line, which if you like any of the merch options currently up, I Survived the Lord Math Experience, Vampires for Nixon, congratulations on your paper trail, When in Doubt, Blame Iago. All of it is going away. The merch store is going, any of those options you have until tomorrow, well, actually Monday. After that, all of those will be retired. So if you want to order it now. But that's it. You can find me online at Deirdre Dolman on Twitter, or Praxagorth as Meaphoria to see me around here on Twitch. Prax the Bard over on Hive, Instagram, and Blue Sky, where I talk about things, kind of. And you can find me over on YouTube as well if you missed any of this discussion, or if you want to participate in any of other community discussions over on YouTube. It's where the VODs go. It's where everything hangs out. I appreciate each and every one of you. the support over there. I see each and every like, share, comment, and subscribe that I get, and I appreciate you so much for that. If you want to help out the channel, there's a Ko-Fi. It goes directly to supporting this channel. We made our goal of getting fundraising for a new camera, which fingers crossed will be here next week. That is the plan. At least you might see an additional camera here next week, hopefully. But there's that. And yeah. But thank you all for being here. Thanks for hanging out tonight. Thanks for chatting with me about all of these things. And we should see if there's anybody up to raid. Unfortunately not. So we'll just end it here for tonight. And I will see you tomorrow night for the finale, the series finale of Carousel Court. And you should keep a weather eye out, because there will be some interesting... You may have heard some rumors going around now, but there will be some interesting final announcements coming in the next couple days. So, catch you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.